Your child has been in school for years. They can solve equations, recite history, and write essays. But have they ever had a single lesson on how to make a decision, how to manage money, and how to think through a problem when there is no correct answer? If the answer is no, this video is for you. My name is Jay Parpani, and I'm the founder of Nurture and Build Academy, which is based in Mumbai. My background is into business management, accounting, and finance. I've spent several years in that world. What I noticed professionally and while speaking to families while I had a conversation with them was a very specific gap. Not a gap in children's intelligence, but a gap in their preparation. Academically strong children who top their classes freeze when they are faced a real life decision, or who cannot handle disagreement without lashing out or shutting down. And I kept thinking, this isn't a character gap, but this is actually a curriculum gap. The subjects that are taught at school just cannot keep up with the pace at which the world is moving nowadays. Schools are extraordinary at many things, but preparing your children for real life is not one of them. This is exactly why I built Nurture and Build Academy. Not to replace the schools, but to actually complete what they leave unfinished. Let me paint a picture that I think will be familiar. Imagine a child who scores in the top 10 ranks of their class all the time. The parents are proud, the teachers are proud. On paper, everything feels alright. Now imagine the same child who is being asked to make a simple decision which after school activity to commit to, or how to spend 500 rupees responsibly, or how to deal with a child friend who is being unkind. They freeze, or they react, or they look at an adult to solve it from them. That's not a weakness, that's never having been given the tools. Here's the honest comparison. School teaches children what to memorize, whereas life demands that they know how to think. 12 years of schooling, thousands of hours of education, and most children reach adulthood without a single framework on how to make decisions, manage money, understanding how emotions affect their thinking, or navigating the digital world that they are currently living in every single day. That's a huge gap, and this is what Nurture and Build is built to close on. Before I explain what we do, I want to be clear about what we are not, because this distinction would save everyone's time. We're not a tuition center who prepares students for school syllabus. We're not a motivation program that pump children with affirmations and send them home feeling good for the day. Because that kind of inspiration just lasts for the weekend and then fades away. We actually build real life foundations which stay for life. We're not a personality development program wherein we manufacture confidence for students. What we actually do is we build capability and skills that in turn is followed by real confidence. What we are is a structured thinking academy. Every session gives your child a framework for navigating a real life aspect of their lives. The methodology is deliberate, sequenced, and designed so that the learning just doesn't stay in the classroom but it comes home. Let me explain you how each session works. We begin with a story, something relatable and grounded, not a fairy tale, something that your child can connect to. Then we introduce the concept in honest, age appropriate language. We do not talk down to children, but we trust that they can handle real ideas when they are explained well. Then we work towards the core of each session, which are the applied activities, a simulation, a constraint, a real life dilemma, and brainstormings. Like in our budgeting session, the children are given 500 rupees and they are asked to make a set of decisions. They have to prioritize, explain their choices, and accept the trade offs. That's not a game, that's a decision making framework working. And every session ends with something that we like to call the bridge protocol, a small, specific, real world experiment that the child takes home and tries it this week. Because we believe that skills only stick when they go out of the classroom. Our parents tell us that this is the part that kids are most excited about because the learning feels real and not theoretical. We work with children between the ages of 6 to 16, and there are three levels. But first, let me tell you about the five core areas that each level is built around. The first pillar is of self awareness. Before a child learns how to make better decisions, manage money, or navigate relationships, they first need to understand themselves, how they think, what patterns they operate from, and what triggers them. We don't make this philosophical, but we keep it really practical. And children live with a clear picture of understanding how they operate and why it matters for everything else in life. The second pillar is structured decision making. How to slow down, think through the options, and think through the consequences, and committing to a decision with confidence, not impulsively, not in a paralyzed situation, but in a structured format. The third core area is financial acumen. We don't teach children accounting lessons over there. What we do is we introduce them to the values of money and make them understand the consequences of the choices that they make and the trade offs that go along with it. We don't do it in a boring way, but we introduce games and activities around it. I feel that the better a relationship that a child has with money from an early age, it goes a long way in determining if they have a better life or not. The fourth pillar is digital awareness because children today are living inside algorithms that are designed to shape what they want, how they feel, and what they are spending their time on. We teach them to see this clearly and to make conscious choices rather than passive ones. And the fifth one, emotional reasoning. Not a be positive, but a real framework on how emotions affect their decisions, how to handle frustrations, and how to work through a conflict in a way that it doesn't affect their relationships. Now, the three levels. Level 1 is foundation. This is for children aged 6 to 8. Here we build the bedrock for emotional awareness, simple habit formation, and the earliest framework of making choices. The work is story led and activity driven because children this age do better by doing rather than being told. The transformation at this level is often the most immediate, as parents can see it within weeks. Level 2 is reasoning. This is for children between the ages of 9 and 12 years old, as they begin working with real constraints such as budget, structured dilemmas, and decision trade offs. They start understanding why they think the way they think and how to slow the process down when it's required the most. This is where self awareness pillar becomes especially powerful as children are just beginning to form their self identity. Level 3 is applied intelligence. This is for children between the ages of 12 and 16. At this age, children are ready to stress test everything, more complex simulations, long term thinking, peer pressure, digital influence. The sessions at this age consider children as junior adults. They are capable of rigorous thinking when given the right framework and the right environment. The reason that all the three levels matter is that the skills compound. A child visits the full arc, just doesn't know more, but they think differently as well. And this difference is not just visible to the child themselves, but to everyone around them, including the parents and the teachers. The first thing that the parents usually notice is the different questions that the child starts asking. Not just can I have this or can I have that, but questions such as why can't we choose this option over the other one? Or why does this cost so much? This is the thinking framework working in. And once you notice this, you cannot miss it. The second thing parents usually tell me that they notice is that the children have started taking a longer pause before reactions. Children who have been with us through the emotional reasoning sessions don't just become perfect, they're still children, but the pauses get longer over time because that is where the decisions are really being made. The third thing the parents find is most surprising is how differently the child has started expressing their opinions. Not just louder, but more structured. They start saying things like, I think this because this work is directly from our brainstorming and discussion frameworks. These are not dramatic transformations that happen overnight, but they're cumulative in nature. Parents who have been with us consistently for multiple sessions tell us that something in them have shifted, that there's a different way that they carry themselves, and it's visible to everybody, their families, parents, and teachers around them. I hear this often, and I'll be honest rather than just reassuring. Ask yourself what most of your child's current schedule is preparing them for. Exams mostly, sometimes a sport or an instrument. But what we do is nothing that those things are doing. We're building in the early foundation and frameworks that your child is going to use for the entire adult life, like every single day. And the longer that these frameworks are set for, they compound that much more. This is exactly why we build the bridge protocol. Every session ends with a real world experiment that your child takes home. You'll see the output probably at the dinner table, at the grocery store, or when they handle a disagreement. You won't need a report card for that. You'll see it at your home, the difference. The feedback that we usually get from the children is that it feels nothing like the school. It's entirely intentional. Every session begins with a story. The core work is usually active. Children are debating, deciding, simulating, and engaging into activities. It's structured, yes, but structure is what it makes taking intellectual risks safe. And children who take intellectual risks early in their life grow the most. If you've watched it this far, I want to say something directly to you. You already sense the gap. You know that the school and the academic results are not enough for your child to thrive in a world that is getting more complex and advanced with each passing year. That's a good instinct and it's worth acting upon. Nurture and Build Academy gives your child the one thing that school doesn't have time to teach: how to think through real life. Not with theory, with practice, with frameworks, and with real situations that build real capability. The children who go through this don't just perform better, they carry themselves differently. They ask better questions and they handle themselves better in difficult situations. And as a parent, I feel that's what everybody wants: the kid to thrive when they are not around, to guide them as parents. And you'll not just hear about it, you'll see it yourself. Seats in each batch are kept deliberately small because the small group model makes the learning work. Once a batch fills, we open the wait list for the next one. If you would like to find out about the current batch, availability, and how to get your child enrolled, the details are mentioned in the description below. You can also reach us out on Instagram and WhatsApp us. The links are there. Thank you for watching this. The fact that you're giving this your time tells me that you're the kind of parent that cares and takes this seriously, and your child is lucky to have that.